Hey guys, today we are going to look at the TS55 REQ track saw. Track saws are very handy tools, from cutting down sheet goods, cutting slabs, straight line ripping, and miters. Track saws work from rough framing all the way to finished furniture. The TS55 with the 55-inch track retails for $690 at Acme Tools. Now that may seem like a lot for a circular saw, but there are some real advantages when using a track saw. Let's start by looking at all the features. Starting with the plunge lock. This button needs to be pushed up to plunge the saw and engage the trigger. Next, the depth gauge and fine adjustment. You can see there are two levels on the gauge. The upper level when the saw is on the track, and the lower level for use without the track. The black knob on top is the fine adjustment to dial in any depth. Now the bevel knobs, starting in the back of the saw, then the front, allowing you to bevel from 0 to 45 degrees. Next is the 47-degree bevel knob. This allows you to cut 2 degrees beyond 45, making a 43-degree angle. Now the -1 degree lever, allowing you to cut a 91-degree angle. Next is the 90-degree adjustment screw. This is important to accurately dial in your saw. Now let's look at changing the blade, starting with the Allen wrench stored in the handle. Then raise the blade lock lever and plunge the saw till it locks in place. Next, loosen the screw by turning counterclockwise and pull the blade out. This is a 6 5/16 inch 48 tooth blade with an alternate bevel, 5-degree hook angle, 15-degree top bevel, and a 15-degree top clearance angle. The plate is 0.063 inches and the teeth are 0.087 inches. Now place the blade back on the arbor, install the locking washer, and tighten clockwise. Place the Allen wrench back in the handle, then close the blade lock lever and gently let the saw come back to its upright position. Now let's look under the blade cover. You can see how the riving knife works, it's spring-loaded, and the plunge motion. Next is the viewing window and chip guard. This is also where the green splinter guard goes, helping to reduce splintering on the outside of the cut. Here is the plunge spring. Now let's look at the motor. This is a brushed motor. When the brushes wear down, you can easily replace them. Next is the speed dial, ranging from 1 to 6. Then the adjustable jaws to secure the saw to the track. You can see here how the cam action works. It's very important to ensure there is no play between the base and track. Next, the track stop. This helps prevent the saw from kicking back when plunging and gives you a starting reference. Well, you can see there are a lot of features on this saw, but what really makes this saw valuable is the track. And there are a lot of them in different sizes. The track is aluminum and has a guide bar which the saw rides on. It also has 2 plastic strips on the top to help reduce friction, and 2 foam strips on the back to increase friction on the workpiece so the track doesn't move during the cut. In the friction test, the track did well, holding up to 54 degrees. When you really need to secure the track for difficult cuts, there's a groove on the bottom to accept the guide rail clamps. It also has a replaceable splinter guard which comes along and you cut to fit with your saw to get a reference line and prevent splintering on the inside of the cut. You can also connect 2 tracks together, but I much prefer to use a single track whenever possible. These connectors allow for some inaccuracies. Now let's do some power testing. making both a 90-degree and 45-degree cut in this 1.5-inch Doug fir. You can see the saw has the power to make both cuts, but don't think this is the same as a standard circular saw. Here I'm pushing my rear handle circular saw through the material quickly. If I try to make this cut in the same manner with the 55, here's what happens. Track saws are designed more for precision work than rough work. Now let's look at the quality of cut, starting with the miter joint in melamine. The saw had no trouble making this cut, and you can see it turned out pretty good. Next is a controlled 90-degree cut in 1.5-inch Doug fir. This also gave a decent cut. Then a 45-degree cut in 1.5-inch Doug fir, which also left a decent cut, but the saw cannot cut all the way through the material. Here's a look at the plunge cut in action. Because the riving knife is spring-loaded, it doesn't interfere with the cut.
You can see how handy a track saw is. Here are my final thoughts. The TS55 performed well. If you're primarily cutting sheet goods or 3/4 material, this saw will get the job done and the auxiliary components of the saw work well. This doesn't mean you can't cut slabs or solid doors, but you'll need to take controlled cuts with a sharp blade. When working with framing lumber or rough cutting, I would switch to a different blade. The friction on the track is good, but definitely loses traction over time, as you can see in this friction test using an older track. You can replace the friction strips when needed. The rail connection is definitely subpar. I personally like to use single tracks and only connect them if I have no other option. The splinter guard has always been a problem for me, and I find it doesn't adhere well at the ends and comes loose over time. Well, that completes the review of the TS55. I hope this has helped. Stay tuned as I'll be reviewing the Bosch GKT 13 track saw next, then we will compare the two saws together. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you next time.